Call to order the budget meeting of, what is today? March
17. Happy St. Patty's Day.
I'm wearing green, a shade of green. Is a shade of green.
Oh, Gloria.
Hey, Gloria, how are you? I'm just going to screen share the budget document. Everyone can see that?
Yep.
All right, Chris, if you want to kick it off.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Dove is not here this evening. She has very much more important business to attend to. And Dave is not here. He had a prior engagement. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. And I did go over every line with Dave this morning. So he gave me some feedback, and I have the feedback that Dove gave us prior to as
Yes.
well. That we can chat about. So the Board of Trustees, our salaries. Oh, sorry, first, while we're going through the document, the columns that are kind of key to look at are the very first column is the expenditures revenues from 2019-20. So this was last year's actual budget. The next column, expenditure revenue to 2/28/21 is our expenditures to that date. The adopted budget 2020-2021 is last year's approved adopted budget. The modified budget, we haven't really modified anything per se officially yet. There's a couple things that will of course change in the final budget. But we can skip that column for now. And then our proposed budget column for 2021-2022 is kind of what we're tentatively proposing today for discussion, and is just a base to start off of. So for the Board of Trustees, the personal services, last year, was there a slight increase for the trustee amounts in last year's budget?
I believe so. I believe they went up slightly.
So we're not proposing.
But it's staying the same now. Like
Right.
that was done and it's staying the same.
Right. So I just wanted to note why that difference from the 97
Yes.
last year. So yeah, I would just propose we start at the same amount as last year and not give ourselves a raise.
Agreed.
For the Justice Court, oh, I'm sorry, and that contractual is just for like webinars and that sort of thing, right, Mindy?
Yes.
Trainings, yep.
For Justice Court, the court clerk, that's Mindy's court line. That's the same as last year. At this point, Justice Personal Services is just the justice's salary. The personal services, 600. I forgot what that 600 is, Mindy.
That's for any extra clerical services that we have that go along with the court.
So if we had a trial of some sort and we needed a stenographer or something.
Exactly. Or if I had to have videotaping, especially, or also it came into play for translator, that would fall into that category.
Okay.
And that's the amount that we actually expended last year. So just keeping it level. And then the contractual is that special prosecutor that we had to hire that Mindy sorted out with the county that we no longer need. So we're projecting that we won't have to spend anything in that line this for the coming year.
Great.
For the mayor, I assume you want to keep your salary the same, right, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And again, 100 in there for trainings, webinars, etc. The auditor, since we had one in the previous year, not our current year. We had one previously, and an outside audit is recommended every 3 or 5 years. I
Yeah.
think we're good for the coming year. So 0 there.
Yeah, I had a question from a resident, let you guess who, about when we were going to do our next audit. So 3 years, I think, is a sound plan, given that we didn't do one for about 20 years before we did that one.
Okay, yep. Clerk, level funded at the moment. Assistant clerk, level funded at the moment from last year. Insurance,
That's the registrar insurance. So that's like the registrar's insurance. It's a special insurance that we have to pay for me being registrar or holding the registrar seal. I know we just paid it. It's a surety type of thing. So CN something surety.
okay.
It was in this batch of, I believe it was just in this batch of vouchers.
Oh yeah, I saw that. The next line, the codification. Last year, we only spent $637 on that. But we predict that last year in the current budget rather, we put in 1,000. We haven't used that much of it because it's kind of been a slow year, but I don't know, maybe 1,000 is a little too high even. But what it would go for is putting together our village code into the book format, right, and updating it. Is that what that line is?
Yes.
Which it's sorely in need of, for sure.
Absolutely.
But so maybe that 1,000 from last year will just roll over into this year. I'm gonna mark rollover in case we can do that in a way that doesn't accrue new funding. So really, we shouldn't, if we put the funds in last year for it and we just didn't do it, we should just be rolling it over and not needing the expenditure this year. So I'm gonna look into that. Contractual for the clerk, what is that one again, Mindy?
I'm not even sure. I don't have notes on that. So it's I don't know. I have the prints out. So I'm not sure. Put a question mark. I'll let you know in the morning because
Okay.
I'm on. All the notes are in the office.
Thank you. And I'm sure we looked at it like 2 meetings ago or something, but I don't remember.
Exactly, because these are, well, the 1, 2, 3, 4, they're clearly defined.
Yep. So law, the last line of the first page here, contractual village attorney. Last year we put in 10,500. The previous year we actually spent 17,000, but that was with the cell tower lawsuits and kind of going over budget in that area. So we could use a starting point of 10,500 again for the coming year. We're currently have spent 8,300, and we're not done for the year yet.
Yeah.
We'll continue to get some in, so it'll definitely probably hit 10,000 at least.
The 8,300, that's as of 2/28. We haven't had any other bills since then.
No.
All right.
But predicts that we would.
Yeah.
We should, if you don't mind, Mindy, following up on them with them to make sure there isn't like a couple month lag that they haven't billed us for yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's leave it where it is for now and then see what the next few weeks play out.
And then the next line, first on page 2 here, contractual other, that's kind of our contingency law legal line. So even if it's a little higher, this is where we would draw from.
Yep.
Oh,
and
I see.
just, we would propose to begin at 10,000 where we did last year. This year, we've already had to have Jonathan come on for the Eisenbach et al. Case.
Down here.
So that's that line.
So Chris, that's for any other lawyers that we have to contract with outside of our, okay.
Or anything that we use our other attorney above the 10.5 that is originally budgeted.
Okay.
Mhm. Engineer, last year we put in 25,000 because we had those additional cell tower related engineering costs. And we were also planning potentially needing water sewer infrastructure studies potentially. We didn't get to doing or needing those studies this year. Again, we could potentially roll that 25,000 over, or otherwise it's going in.
I mean, so you have it down as 10 for this year?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, let's leave it there for now. I think part of that 25 was we didn't know whether we were going to need an engineer for some of the street repairs as well. And we ended up not utilizing the engineer. And I know this year we're going to look hopefully into some more sewer and infrastructure things. So 10 seems like a good number based on the year before that.
Yep. Yep, exactly. For the elections, this year we predict, just an FYI, we had 2 elections this year because of the delay. So that 420 of current expenditure doesn't include the yesterday's election, right, Mindy?
Right.
And we predicted about 500 to be out of there. But going forward, we would presume we only have 1 election
Right.
next year. Wait, do we have any elections next year?
Yes, we do. In March. Every March we have an election because they're staggered.
Yeah.
You and I would be up next year.
Yep.
The term.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Because our election got pushed back from March to November, so the next one would be next March.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Records management. Can you tell me again what that contractual 2,000 is?
Records management contractual is, I mean, date 1920. That's like building inspector stuff, like the, codes, and that must be that kind of stuff because we're falling into those categories now.
Okay.
Like I said, all I have is the printout of the working budget. I don't have my notes.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We'll have the answer by next week. That's what this is more clearly. But obviously it's in keeping with what we have been spending. So that's why we're keeping it at 2. Buildings. So last year in 1920, we actually spent 7,700. This breakdown, I think you said, was like things we pay on with the credit card, cleaners, copier stuff.
Right, that's contractual.
And last year we only budgeted, or for the current year, we've only budgeted 5,000, and we're coming up pretty close on that with a couple more months to go. So we were thinking maybe starting somewhere closer to 8, but maybe it doesn't need to be that high. Maybe then.
What were the increases this year?
Wait, Chris, you lost me. Where are you? I thought you were on the records management contractual. Are we in buildings now or?
Yes, right
Yeah.
here.
Okay, 8,000 the first, okay.
Yep.
And we're going up 3,000 because?
Because last year's expenditures were 7,700.
Okay.
What were the increases due to the new copier? What else?
So that's the copier, it's the cleaning. What else would go on contractual?
Yeah, that's something we should probably discuss is the cleaning service. How much are we paying for that now? And yeah,
It's like
$80 twice a month. And
so
I mean, I don't think it's necessary twice a month. It doesn't get messy.
so $160 a month.
Yep.
but yeah, so maybe we can look at that.
Yeah, let's talk about that because yeah, I saw that in the abstract last meeting, and it may be something we look into.
Could, Mindy, if you don't mind, like between now and then, are you able to break down the current expenditures that we had this year, just to kind of predict if last year was like we had some unpredictable things and it is going to be closer to 5,000 by the end of the year?
In that particular line, the buildings?
Yeah.
One? Absolutely.
Contractual. Thank you. Maybe we can look to cut other things like the cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. Supplies, maybe that would include the cleaning supplies. Or
all the supplies.
all the hand sanitizer we had to buy this year. But maybe
Pens.
what was that, Lisa?
Pens.
All the pens that were given out at the election.
But actually looking at the last year, we did spend 4,000 normally in a normal year, but we're actually a little under for this year, probably because we haven't had public meetings and going through reams of paper.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So we, maybe
Plus, we have a great copier that scans the email now, so that's also saving a lot of paper.
Exactly. And the copier went down. So I don't know why that contractual would have increased. Our copier payment went down by $10 a month.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna seriously look into that line. There's more to that.
It wouldn't be Anthony, would it? Is that in that line?
The phone. Yes, it's the phone. But didn't we say that? It's the phone, the copier.
Yeah, but Anthony's also doing like kind of IT consulting, right? When we need him for the cord.
Yes. Yeah, but that's not crazy. It's still around 140, 145 a month. I'll figure it out.
Right.
I'll figure it out by tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Fuel, we're kind of being conservative with 3,000, even though we only spent 1,800 last year, because we predict our fuel prices have been going up.
Oh, okay. Because it was a pretty cold winter, and that's pretty good if we've only spent
Yeah.
1,141.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically are only heating that main building that Mindy's in, the courtroom and the back voting room. Really, I don't know if you've been in there lately. They stay at a pretty low temperature.
Yeah, I don't keep that very warm, but hopefully we will soon.
And then electricity, we're much lower probably than we were last year in electricity overall on the buildings, but we also haven't been using them as much.
Right.
But the prior year we spent 3,100, so safe to keep it at 3,000. Telephone.
Yes, Anthony has his own line, Mike. So he's not contractual. So it's copier, cleaner, and I gotta see what else, because that's way too much for those two.
Okay, maybe we can shave down that section on buildings. For general government support, next line, property, is all the insurance that we pay on all of our properties.
Yep.
It always goes up a little, so 12,000 is.
Have you reached out to Jarelli to see if there's going to be any kind of
Well, there's always a tiny little percentage, but she said I would have something, that she would get in touch with me next week and we'd start.
all right.
Contingency, this 10,000 is what we always have in our contingency. This is if we have something completely unexpected, it would come from there.
All right.
Did you say where, Mike?
Nope, I said good.
Sorry. General government support, got that right. Public safety, police, we don't have a contract for police. Our sheriff takes care of us, or Cold Spring, if necessary.
And here's the surprising one.
Yes, so the fire department has gone down in their contract. It's based on, it includes like different fringe benefits that they usually pay. So that's many.
Service award program is like, it's like a retirement for volunteer firemen. I spoke to the president of the fire company just to triple check that this figure is correct, and he said yes. The administrative side is being handled by the village, so the fire department doesn't set the number, so that came straight from Cold Spring.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And this is the exact amount that is in the contract for next year.
Yes.
The hydrants, last year we spent $2,300. This is rental of the hydrants, is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't change.
Yeah. So in the building inspector, I got my sheet here. So personal services, Bill Bajarski has been paid in the current budget after a slight increase from the previous year that he got as well. In the currently he works 4 hours a week at this 6,600 approximately. We know that he puts in a lot more hours. The increase that we're proposing here would include fire inspections on commercial businesses, places of assembly, and multi-unit residential buildings, which would increase his hours to approximately 2 hours a week. This is something that we're required to do. I recently heard on one of Cold Spring's board meetings that they were planning to do this in the village of Cold Spring as well. We can't remember the last time it was ever done in Nelsonville. So we thought that this would be a good thing to make sure that the buildings are all safe. That would add $1,350, approximately two additional hours a week, to a base of personnel to equal $7,950.
Chris, what about the Airbnb?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
What about the Airbnb inspections and the filing for that and all of that?
She's ahead of you by
Okay.
2 lines.
You're ahead by 1 line. So I'll just say what this contractual was in our current year budget of the 3,000 was what we had planned for the tower oversight. To date, we hadn't needed it. We might still by the end of the fiscal year. And then whatever we wouldn't use, we would be able to roll over for the future years, for next year. The contingency 1, STR, is the short-term rental. If we are to pass the bill, we've approximated that it would be in about 4,000 for the startup for the first year. And that's based on the $250 permit, which was based on how many hours Bill would need to put into the review of an application and the inspection of the property. And again, we thought it might be a good idea to put it in a contingency line because we haven't passed this yet. We're not sure if we're going to get to it. We don't know how the number of units may go up or down, which would impact the total number of hours that Bill would be going out and doing this review. Contingency 2 is the tower oversight. Again, this is based on a half a year projected need. And we know towers go up pretty quickly, so it might not be a half a year need. It would probably be less when they actually get started on the building. So this would include work from November through like March, I guess, is when work could happen on the tower. So the 5 months of oversight at an estimated 1 hour per week.
They could actually, technically, they could work on the tower through the summer. They just can't cut trees.
True.
Right.
I mean, if they, and it's not a big secret, we can talk about it here, that there was a letter submitted to us earlier tonight that they are going to look to start tree cutting at Rockledge in the main part of the property, not the right of way, on this Friday at 9 a.m. So, I mean, in theory, if they clear the trees by April 1st, there's nothing to stop them from beginning construction out there.
When do the bats come back?
April 1st is the DEC cutoff, so you can't cut trees between April 1st and November 1st, I think it was.
So we can all go tree sit.
Yeah. So, this is the first time that we've had such a significant projected increase for Bill's time.
Yeah.
So something for us to really think about, but those fire inspections seem like a smart thing to do. The costs are in line with the amount of time that he would be spending on it. It's equal to each hour spent. So in theory, on short-term rentals, we get all that money back.
Yeah.
It's a in and out in the expended from revenue. On the tower, we don't get that back. That's extra.
My only suggestion on that is maybe just leave it at 3, like it was last year.
For tower?
Yeah, that way.
Because it may be.
Yeah.
Run out of time or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree, because he's going to have to run up there if they start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And we can discuss that at the next meeting as well if the trustees want to.
Yeah, and maybe I'll check back with Bill after this because I haven't really talked to him again since the initial memo he gave us with his projection.
I mean, I had a discussion with him about the numbers he submitted about for the new budget, and he's most concerned about the fire inspections and the things that you've appropriated for taking up a lot more time. So I think we're good.
Yeah, and I did have a conversation. He's okay with putting in the additional hours for it, but we need to budget for it appropriately. Alrighty, next area, public safety, public health registrar. That 250 is death certificates, right, Mindy?
Yep, that's the death certificates, birth certificates when it's a home birth. I do those too, all of that stuff.
So we haven't had any thus far this year, but in the previous year we had 250. So we're kind of earmarking that.
So we haven't had any requests for that this year?
No, but I believe the registrar fee is something that goes in and out every year. I have to double check, but that's one of those things that I could never understand, but I was told it is what it is and it's required that we allocate that.
Yep.
Got it. So the next area is contractual health. This is the hub funding that we approved last year, the 2710. Just history, I think when we passed it last year, and Dave reminded me of this when I met with him, that we didn't guarantee it going forward. This is a conversation of whether or not we want to continue the funding.
Yep.
And he suggested maybe we think about reducing the funding. That's something that we can think about. It was a startup year for the hub. And I think that we, obviously it's very, very valued service to our community, and we reflected that in our allocation. So we might, you know,
Last year was a startup year for the hub, but they're still not being funded by the county. Is the Village of Cold Spring contributing or no?
Not yet, but there's a lot of pressure there now.
yeah, and I know that I think that Phillipstown may be reorganizing how they fund it. I don't know that for sure though.
Yeah, I know Dave would like to see it go down. I mean, this was actually one of the more controversial things in our budget last year. And I think given the way the year went, that we were ahead of, it's great that we did this just because of the lockdown and all that. I personally would like to see it stay the same or even go up a little, but yeah, we can discuss it as a board.
So maybe we'll earmark it at the same for now, but fully.
Yeah, we'll have a talk with everybody present and see how everyone feels on it.
Yep. Lisa, do you have any initial thoughts on it? On the amount?
No, I think we had Danielle come and give a presentation. It'd be curious. I mean, there's all sorts of HIPAA things, but it'd be nice to sort of take the temperature and see how people are using it, just because I haven't even been down into Cold Spring. It's pretty crazy, because it's, nobody goes out, but I can just check with her informally. I think I would like to see it stay the same for now.
And we, in the contract, Danielle is responsible to give us 2 updates a year. She gave us the one at kind of the halfway mark. So actually it might be good to have another one before we finalize the budget to hear how utilization is and their planning going forward. Transportation, street maintenance. So this is basically for Secor. Let me kind of run down even though we're going to come to CHIP soon. Actually, let me first say, in talking with Dave, obviously Secor remains the priority. An old estimate that we got when we were getting estimates for the other roads had Secor at maybe around 40,000, I think. I don't know if you remember offhand, Mindy, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, Secor was like 30-something thousand. It was high compared to the others.
But because it's a longer stretch, and but Dave, and I think I agree too, thinks that it's actually going to be more expensive than that initial quote, because that didn't really look at the specs of what was needed, and it's in a worse shape than the other roads were, and it's like a very thin coating currently, and they would have to like dig down and do a better job on it. So he is predicting 60,000 for that, to estimate at, before we obviously go and bid out and everything. And that is what we had projected the current year for the other 2 streets. So if we all agree that 60,000 is a good place to start, then we would use a balance between our CHIPS, Pave New York, and EWR funds from the state, and our savings to cover it. If it was 60,000 and we used all available CHIPS, Pave New York, EWR funds, we could pay 50,000 out of the CHIPS pooled availability, and then we would pull 10,000 from our savings. However, that would leave us with no CHIPS going forward into the next year. Every year we get approximately, how much? Approximately 13,500. So currently, our chips after this year's reimbursement for the 44,375 for bank and division, it leaves us with a total of 36,500. We can expect next year, in addition, that we're going to get another 13,500. That gets decided at the state budget that it will at the end of March. It might take us like another month for them to figure out how they divvy up those funds at the local levels, but we can pretty much bank on getting another 13,500 and leaving us with a total of 5,000 to play with next year. I'm sorry, 50,000.
50,000.
Big difference. So I think, you know, initially I was thinking maybe we do the 50 and the 10, but I wasn't thinking that we would be left with nothing after. So we might want to do more of a similar balance that we had planned last year and leave a little left over.
Yeah, I think that's the better plan. And before, when is our next budget meeting? It's next week?
23rd?
24th, 23rd, right?
Yeah. Either I'll talk with Dave, and either him or I will reach out to Charlie Paul Hemus and see if we can get more of a concrete estimate on that street.
That's a good idea. Okay.
Thank you. That's a very good idea.
I mean, and also as part of that, I don't know how you guys feel, but possibly looking into paving our part of the municipal lot in Secor, because Mark seems to have a lot of issues there with the rocks and all that stuff. But again, it's more of a want than a need, so we can talk about it.
Okay. Throw that on the list. So that line that's currently at 10,000 will likely want to increase higher and then reduce the chips amount that we set at 50,000 later. The contractual under street maintenance is for Mark's. This one is regular street maintenance, not the.
It's already got the percentage increase that it goes up, so it's exactly.
Here are the chips. This is what we were just talking about with the chips. And chips is not only chips, it also includes Pave New York and EWR, which are slightly lesser amounts that we get, but they can all be used for paving. I verified that with DOT. Snow removal. This is the snow portion of Mark's contract. Street lighting. This is kind of in line with what we paid out in expenditures last year, almost 12,000.
Hopefully it'll go down a little bit if we replace the lights in the park, which I'm still waiting on a call back from Central Hudson.
Yep. The next section, culture and recreation, cultural. Last year we spent $340. This $90 is our annual Christmas tree. We had budgeted for 1,000, but we clearly didn't need to or spend that much. So I'm recommending that we start at 500.
Dove had asked about Christmas decorations and things like that. I mean, the one quote that I have in the office was done 15 years ago. To wire the electricity and buy the wreaths and all of that, it was upwards, I don't even recall, like $16,000, something like that.
And also something that's a hard infrastructure like that we can use over and over again would actually be able to be funded through a rec fund, which is, we don't have very many uses for that rec fund, but that is an appropriate use, so we should take it from there before adding it.
All right.
So I don't know, we could leave it at 500, we could go down more. I don't know what we spent the 340 on last year.
Was it the fishing? They
The-
contributed to the
That
fishing
comes out of
and,
the rec fund also, doesn't
oh,
it?
that does? Okay.
That's the only thing that comes out of the rec fund.
Well, no, we talked about the
50
improvements to the park this year came from there.
Yes, the that $900 that,
But typically, it has only been the fishing, yeah, in years past. So I don't know. Keep it at 500.
I would.
Decrease it.
I mean,
For the planning board, this 500 is what we projected from last year, but the year before we only spent 170. This is their trainings and certification kind of thing.
yep,
They've already spent 270 this year. I don't know if this is this just an association where they, like our NICOM, that they have a.
no, they also are required to do 4 hours a year of training.
Oh, wow, okay. But it seems predictable at 270.
Looks that way.
Maybe we could just put in 300 instead.
300.
Refuse removal contract. Mindy, do you want to detail a little bit about this upcoming need?
The contract is up, so I'm going to be putting out for bids the end of the month, and I'm going to have the bids come in the morning of our next meeting in April, and that's what usually happens. The bids are read at the meeting and they're decided, so that's what we have ahead of us. It's got to be published as a legal notice, and whoever wants to bid can come to the office, pick up the bids, and we require sealed bids by that date, and then we open them at the meeting.
be able to notify Royal that we're,
I'm not allowed, unfortunately. I just have to put that in the paper. I can't give anyone preferential notice.
But they know their contract is up, so
Absolutely.
I assume this is going to be the case.
Absolutely. They even come with 2 contracts and in case nobody's there to bid against them. That's what I'm told.
Oh. So we left it level funded from the previous year, but I think we could probably presume they're going to increase it slightly for next year.
yeah.
Maybe they'll be like the fire company.
Maybe. On the next page, this contractual line of 300, I don't remember what that was.
That's community beautification.
Oh, sorry, I missed it from the bottom line. Yeah, which we didn't spend anything from so far this year because we had a lot of our beautification we did pay from the rec fund for all the park work that was improved on. This would be just to delineate between the rec fund and other similar kinds of things. This would be like, annual flowers or something like that. That, is just going to be around for 1 year.
Right.
Versus rec fund, which is a capital improvement that we'll have for multiple years. Hard cost. Trees. I talked with Dave about this a little bit also today. In the prior budget, 1920, you can see we only spent $800, but we knew coming into this year that we had some significant work to do to catch up on, so that's why we had put in 5,000. To date, we've spent 4,400. Looking forward, we don't have those specific backlog of tree issues to take care of, but we know things come up. So the proposal here is for slightly less at 3,000. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're gonna definitely need stuff. I mean, trees are going to come up. There's
Yeah.
there's definitely trees around that I see that are potentially going to be an issue in a future.
Mhm.
Just in the property across the street, there's one I was noticing the other day that's problematic. It could, if it, for Gareth and Pat, potentially.
Yeah, they have one in their backyard that they've
Yeah.
aware of.
Okay. So yeah, so we know there are needs. Do you want to keep it at 5, 4, 3?
But I mean, at the end of the budget, we're pretty much below where we need to be. So I mean, if you wanted to leave it at 5, I think just to be safe, or split the difference at 4.
And we could also, we have contingency
Yeah.
throughout the budget. So if we needed to, we could drag it over as well.
Yeah, I think, splitting it and keeping it 4 might be not a bad idea.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Employee benefits. So the New York State retirement, we had one less person on receiving retirement benefits, right, Mindy?
Wait. No, that stays the same. I mean, because now we have New York State retirement. Let me see. I'm just trying to make sure that they're all okay.
'Cause last year we spent 5,100.
Mm-hmm.
To date, we're only at 4,800 with a couple more months to go.
Yep.
So it seems like we might have overplanned a little bit at
Yep.
6,500. So we were thinking of lowering it at least 1,000 to 55. But I don't remember what the impetus was, why it was lower.
Because now I'm the only one paying retirement. I'm the only one there that's paying retirement. Bill retired.
That's what it was.
The year before Pauline was retired, but we had me and Bill.
So, and that's like a predictable amount. Like it's not going to increase crazy amounts. So that's why we thought to lower it to 5,500.
Right.
Being that we spent 51 last year. For Social Security, this 4,000. Was this also?
It's mine, and it's your salary is Mike's salary. We take that out of we have to pay that for everybody. We have to take taxes out of everybody. That particular tax.
So last year we spent 5,000 and we proposed 4,000 last year, or we adopted that.
And we're pretty close to that now.
We're pretty close to that now. Why did it go down so much from last year? I wonder.
Social Security, probably because in there might have been I don't know, it might have been Social Security. I mean, let me say, go down like, I don't know, then somebody must have made that much less money this year compared to last year. Because Social Security is based on earnings.
Right.
It's not something that, you know what I mean?
So we're not gonna, and so the rest of the year, as paychecks are given out, the year increase a little bit. It'll increase a little bit over the next couple months, and we'll get close to 4,000, but probably not go over.
I have to check. I'm not going to answer until I see, because I have a feeling it's going to come out to like pretty close to what it was last year, because I don't know, nobody's pay changed that significantly. You know what I mean? And like I said, Social Security is something that we don't, that's set, like that particular percent.
So we all just got our like final checks for the year.
Yeah, so we should be able to get a concrete number by next week on that.
Okay.
Yeah, because then it's just me and Bill and Dennis and Pauline.
All right, let's try to
For
just
the
double
next
check
3
that
months.
we're not lowballing it at 4,000.
Okay.
Workers' comp. We haven't had to pay yet, but the previous year we had 500. Health insurance, or sorry, that was
No.
disability was the 500. Workers'
Right.
comp is kind of like set amount.
Mm-hmm.
Health insurance, typically goes up a little bit, but we pay through the state's health insurance, so it's not radical increases each year.
The
But
only person on that is Josephine. So that's what that is.
I don't know. We could leave it at the 5,500. We could go down a little lower, but
I would say make it 5.
Yeah, if it's at 47 the year before and it's at 35 to the 28th, I would, yeah, I'd
I would say 5 is
probably
fine.
get away at 5,000.
could have shaving things down.
Mhm.
All righty. We haven't had anything in the capital notes there. Interfund transfers is just flat right now. That's part of the budgeting software as it's needed throughout the year. That's where they would do that kind of thing. So total appropriations, we tweaked things a little bit here, but it was approximately proposed budget of 385,000. Revenues, only 2 pages to go. The real property taxes last year, we adopted 284,393 for property taxes. We did not raise taxes last year. I would propose that we not need to raise taxes again this year, given that we still have a good savings and that there's a lot of budget items that are carrying over from last year that we haven't spent.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Great. The real property.
Yeah, I
tax-
agree too. Sorry, couldn't get my mute button.
Great. And also the state controller training that Mindy and I did, they also talked about, yeah, if you don't need to raise taxes, you do not need to raise taxes. And you should not, because you've already how did they put it? You've already taken in those funds, and so you should be spending them. You can't double tax your residents. Where is it? Where are we? Real property tax items, interest and penalties, real property taxes. I have no memory of what that was.
Oh, because everybody, certain people pay their taxes late, and so we always get penalties and interest on those funds.
Got it. Last year, 1,800. This year, only 400 to date.
Mm-hmm. There's, because we did not charge a penalty for the month of July because of COVID. You know, some municipalities were extending their payments by 3 months and, you know, doing all kinds of things. And, you know, people were late, people were tight, it was crazy. So I didn't start penalties until after July. Usually it's, you know, July 1st.
So, and then can you remind me again, when someone isn't able to pay their taxes at the local level, it then goes to the county,
county.
we just did. And so the county then goes, the county pays us what we're owed.
Right, which I already got it, by the way. And then they, in turn, will contact the property owner and do what they need to do.
So this penalty amount on this line here is, we still get a penalty before it gets kicked to the county.
Exactly, yes. We get every month after June, starting in July, it goes, you pay a penalty 1%, 2% for each month it goes up.
Got it. So this is, you know, when we're thinking about revenues, you don't want to overestimate your revenues. You kind of want to underestimate and be happy that it came in higher. But based on the previous year, 1,000 kind of seems reasonable. Does anybody have thoughts on that?
I would leave it at 1,000.
The non-property tax items, the franchises is our cable franchise. When people use cable, we get a percentage of that. If people don't like their cable anymore and they leave their cable, we get less money. So it's completely dependent on people's satisfaction with their cable service.
Shocking that increased this year.
Say that again?
It's shocking that increased given the amount of dissatisfaction people have with Altice.
Yeah, well, it did decrease from the last year actuals. Last year, the actual that came in was 8,300. To date, we're at 78. So by the end of the year, it might get close to 8, right? Maybe.
No, we're not gonna get, I don't think we get anything else.
No more? Okay, so that's where
That's
we're at.
it. It went down a bit.
So we could increase this to 7. But if we think folks are really unhappy, we could be safe and leave it at 6,500.
We think they're really unhappy, but there's no choice.
I mean, they are going to be doing, you know, supposedly the repair work this year. So we'll see. Maybe it'll make a big jump in the increase.
That would be awesome.
So good. You want to leave it at 65 or bring it up to 7?
I'd leave it at 65 just to be safe.
Departmental income, this registrar is kind of where it comes in and out. Mindy, right?
Nope. There's nothing there.
Right, but
if anything came in of fees, that would go there.
It's kind of like the holding place.
Right. Right.
So we had an increase in the amount of money we paid out to fix the sewer that was, again, charged to the residents in their taxes, correct?
Yes.
So there was increased cost this year that were recouped in the amount of 4,900. Unfortunately, we can't count on this as a revenue source. Obviously, we wouldn't want to.
We have to spend it to get it.
But that's why we're at 0 for the proposed. Use of money and property. The firehouse rental. Mike, you want to detail again?
It's hopefully increasing to $1,200 a month. Waiting on confirmation from the legislature, but the county executive did approve it personally. So once she gives the blessing, hopefully it will pass without issue.
Yep. And that's
it should start mid-April. Hopefully that in April will be up to 1,200.
And then staggering increases for the next 4 years, and then year 4 and 5 getting up to 1,500 per month, equaling, I forgot how much, what is that per year times 12. That was good work to get that increase.
18,000 a year.
Great. Licenses and permits, building permits. Last year, we had 5,500. This year, you can see the COVID boom in building. We had an increase of 12,000.
And $3,000 permit from AT&T for the tower. So it was a boom.
It was 3,000 for the tower alone?
Yeah, it was pretty close to that between between the two, between Homeland and AT&T. Verizon and AT&T, one was 2,300 and one was probably 6 or 7, so pretty close to 3.
Okay, so that we can't count on again next year. So subtract 3,000 from 12,800 would get us at like I don't know, 9,000-ish. So the proposed 5,000 is still being very conservative because we can't really predict what's going to happen in building. So
If we were to pass the STR law, would this be where the income from those permits would end up?
Yep, it should.
well, that
What we should do, Chris,
mhm.
is 2590 point, right?
Yep, add in.
Okay. Based on our training, yeah, we have to see what that next, but that's where it would go because it's gonna, right? Because all that has to be taken into account to offset that contingency.
Yep.
So Mike, it would be a sub header of
Yeah,
that.
I just don't know if do we put it in now, even though we have not passed the law as a possible planned income. And yeah, I don't even know if we would, that might be an ICOM question.
Mhm.
All right, we'll get back to us on that. Fines and forfeitures. This is dependent on how many tickets are given out and how many court appearances happen.
Yep.
This year, because of COVID, court was out of session for a very long time. Last year's actual was 3,200. This year, we're seeing only 820, although court is back in session for the next coming 2 months. So that will increase a little bit, but probably not dramatic. We're not going to get back to 3,000 this year. And that was what we had planned for. So going forward in the proposed budget, I was taking a conservative guesstimate at 1,500. Just kind of splitting the baby. I don't think we're gonna get back to pre-COVID necessarily soon. But I don't know, thoughts?
We do have a new trustee joining us that lives right on one of the most problematic speeding areas of Fishkill Road and 301. So I've asked the police to enforce there many times. So
I did see the sheriff was parked in my road for that was the first I saw this week.
But did they pull anyone over?
I don't know.
That this is the fines and forfeitures, like the action in the courtroom, is directly related to our relationship with the sheriffs, because the more they ticket, the more people, you know what I mean, that we're gonna get. So
that's why I was being kind of conservative in our estimated revenue there. But we can hope to get back to pre-COVID, but I don't know, that's a big shift in their current policies to ramp back up to.
I don't even know if it was a shift in policies or just because there were less cars on the road.
right,
Yeah, that too.
so
Yep.
many less people commuting. That's
Yep.
what it was.
Yeah, everyone late for the train getting pulled over in Nelsonville.
True. That's
Mhm.
very true. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd leave it at, I don't know, 1,500, maybe 2,000.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah. And we need to follow up with the sheriff's department as well.
All right, last page. Sale of property and compensation, minor sales. This in the past has been where the FOIL request copying has been. So last year we had $36. We were kind of unsure since there was a lot of FOIL requests last year where we go. So we had parked it at 100, but I don't think we want to, guarantee a revenue stream based on copying. So I would keep it at 0 for now, and then be pleasantly surprised if we get a lot of it.
Mhm.
Miscellaneous. The aim is aid and incentives to municipalities. This is state funding that is a predicted income source year after year. Last year, say again?
Every May.
every May. So it hasn't hit our books yet. But we predict, or we know that it's going to be 3,343, right, Mindy?
Yes.
We know what the set amount is.
Yep.
And that's what it has been. We looked back at previous budgets, that's what it's been. We had it listed in a different area last year.
It was in the wrong spot.
Yeah, so it was per capita, right? That 3,000. So just going forward, that state aid per capita we're just shifting it up there. We found a better place for it, more appropriate place for it to be. So that is predicted income to come in. Under state aid per capita, you'll notice a very big chunk of change, 34,650. I will now go into that detail. Part of the American Rescue Plan included funding to local municipalities. A couple weeks ago now, NICOM did a really great job of estimating out how much that is going to be at the very local level. So I went to their charts. I saw that Phillipstown is going to get about $1 million allocation. The money will flow directly to big cities. And then if you're not in a big city, it flows to towns or smaller cities. In our case, it's going to flow to Phillipstown. And then we have a percentage of our residents' population, which is 6.5%, Phillipstown's 9,600 total residents, which would give us a total amount of 69,300 in ARP funds. The funding would come in over a 2-year period, starting as early as 3 months from now. So that's that half is 3,400, 650. 34,650. And then the other second half would come 12 months after that first allotment. So we would put it in the 34,000 in this year's budget, and then the next year's budget would come the second amount. It is only for very specific things, but there's a lot of area for broad usage. The 2 areas that make most sense to us is to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. The second is to respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or to assist impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. The final rules, detailed rules haven't come out yet. So we'll still see some more information about how to spend and the requirements. And if we don't use the funds or can't use them, they go back to the federal government generally for this whole pot of funding. So it'll take some proactive planning on all of our parts to figure out the best usage of the funds. Fantastic that it's available. It's supposed to be a boon to the economy and backfill loss. I've already reached out to Phillipstown to make sure that we're collaborating well together to make the best use of the funds. So and we checked in with the controller's office about where to put it, and it seems like this would be an appropriate thus far. Any questions about that? That's pretty big, I know.
I think with our sewer issues, we'll find a good use of some of that money.
Right. So this could, when we were talking before about the engineering funds that we had in there, currently we have proposed 10,000. We could be using this revenue instead of expenditures for us. So that would be great to supplant that. The mortgage tax. This is a tax that is dependent upon the real estate market. And if when a mortgage is recorded on the purchase of a home, we get a kickback at the local level. So the more people put down in cash, the less that comes to the village. Last year, we had an income or revenue of 11,000, almost close to 12,000. To date, we have about 9,000. We budgeted last year at 7,000 conservatively. So we could keep it at 7. We could increase it a little bit. We know that the market has been very good, but again, it's kind of dependent on cash down and mortgage. And I like to be more conservative in revenues generally, but I could see us, since I don't know how many more home sales we'll have before the end of the fiscal year. Conceivably, we could have a lot more.
I think that's a good number.
Keep it at 7.
Yeah.
Great. The chips. This again, I think we'll shift around a little bit based on our conversation before. So maybe not 50,000 here, maybe something lesser. We'll figure out that magic number after we hear more about what we think the real costs are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. We did also hear from the controller's office that this appropriated reserves line, the third line up in our document, is a good place to be able to show funds that we're taking from our reserves. So this may be where we actually, instead of street maintenance, it may be more appropriate for us to place that savings funds for CECOR, for roof, etc., in that line, because we're not really taking it. We don't need to raise capital to do it. We already have the capital. We already have the funds. So I'm going to check in with them again just to triple check, but that might be a good budgeting tool going forward to make it more accurate, to show that we're truly having a balanced budget. And I think these numbers will change a little bit. So the 22,000 last year, we proposed using 49,000 from our savings. You would not have to do that this year, given all the balanced budget that we have and the revenues coming in projected. I think that's right. And using our savings that we have for the intended projects. So that said, do you guys want to just go over quick things that we do not have covered in here that we talked about, that we would potentially want to fund, including, so the CECOR is in here, is in the budget proposal currently. What is not in there is the new roof on Village Hall, and gutters that go along with it. I think our initial quote that we got was around 18,000, something like that, but it did not include gutters. So I just added on like another 5,000 for gutters, because it sounded like it was kind of a tough job to do, where to get the drainage out to on that spot. Maybe 25 is too much, but
the original estimate, it all depends on what the undersheeting of the roof is. There's a big difference between the two prices. So.
Yeah.
But I do think, talking to Dave, and Dave is the roofing expert, we lost more shingles this year through some of the storms. So we're getting up to the point where we need to make a decision on it.
Yeah.
And better to do it before it leaks.
Yep. And it's, seemingly a pretty reasonable price thus far. And we have the savings to do it. The substation stairway, we don't have an estimated cost on that currently, right?
No, and I mean, it's kind of it's a discussion we need to have as a board, because Technically, since it's not a public meeting space, the fire escape or building code doesn't need to be steel. It can be wood, which it is now.
Okay, great.
Which, is a lot cheaper than a steel fire escape. So I guess as a board, we need to make the decision whether that's ever going to be used as a public meeting space going forward, or whether we want to do more of a conservative repair on it in kind that cost a lot less.
And we should have somebody actually take a look at it.
Yeah, they have an estimate that's probably 7 or 8 years old at this stage.
And then we could use reserve funds that we currently have from our savings, or we could also start to put a little bit away at a time in the budget just for that project, since we know it is one that will come up. We could talk about that. The holiday wreaths and electrical hookups on the poles we talked about, that could come from a rec fund. So we would, assuming all the important things were able to be funded first, we could look at having an estimate on that to see if we have funding to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the estimate I could probably get for free from Burke Electric that did the former estimate that's now 15, 16 years old, just to get see how much the costs have increased.
Okay, and then maybe we can just look online for a wreath and cost it out.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Catherine Fatty, who, when we were trustees in the village, was the one who procured all the wreaths for Main Street down there. And the prices are pretty much the same as what they were. And there are these companies that deal directly with municipalities, so there is kind of a savings there. It's just, we need to, again, have the discussion and see where on the priority list it is.
Exactly. And then the last thing that Dove reminded us of was potentially getting a backup generator. And I know now from our substation tour that also comes with a significant electrical hookup.
Yep.
Essentially. So I don't know if that's high on the need list or not. I don't remember why we were considering that.
Yeah, I think to do our buildings, you're looking at probably $15,000 to $18,000 with the generator, the electrical switchover, the propane tanks, all of that. We don't have any kind of mission critical things going on in our village hall, so it may just be something I don't see a great need for it. We can talk about it as a board next week and see. Yeah, I would agree. I have a hard time justifying it for my own home, so to speak, in the village hall.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The electricity doesn't go off I mean, I used to live on Old Albany, so it would be days and days, but in the village here, it's never been more than a few hours.
Don't jinx it.
Okay, I won't.
We were honestly just talking about that today, and I think the longest time we've lost electricity has been 24 hours in the past couple of years.
So that's it for me. Anybody else?
I mean, in terms of any kind of expenditures that we're not planning for that may be rec related, the Nelsonville Woods, there's some trail maintenance and things that need to happen. Not huge costs by any means, but maybe $1,000 here or there for item 4, gravel, that kind of stuff, to just redo some of the trail sections. But I think given everything that's happened in the world, we're in an incredible spot right now. So, and this budget's very, very well done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Yep, and thanks for Mindy.
Thanks, Chris.
For all your work and guidance and follow-up questions to OSC and everybody else, making Mindy work hard. Thank you.
Almost there. Almost there.
All right, so we'll have another meeting on the 23rd at 7. And then we have one other one scheduled for after that.
The two in April are that's, we're gonna adopt the tentative budget hopefully at the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
So all these changes will be in by then. And then we have two schedules in April. Those are actual budget hearings with the public.
I think 3, right? There's an early
Is it
one
2 or 3?
in April, and then the workshop and a regular meeting are going to be budget.
I'll get them all up on the web. Just send me a refresher email with all the dates and times, and I'll get it up in the upcoming meeting section.
Yep. So that's it for now. We'll get as much info before next meeting and make a couple adjustments, and then we can even make an adjustment at the meeting, obviously, before we vote for the tentative budget. But let's try to make it happen. So we'll have to plan another meeting.
Well, we're almost there, so.
All right. Thank you, and I think that's everything for tonight. Gloria ditched out on us early.
Not too early. She was here until a minute ago.
Yeah. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I will forward on the letter from, I received it through Adam Rodriguez, but it's really from John Bardavid. And then with just a little verb or a little paragraph that could be forwarded on to the residents. Mindy, do you want to send it from the clerk?
Sure. Do you want, tell me exactly who you want me to send it to.
Jeff Rossi, Rich Villela, and
Rosemary O.
Wait, say that again.
Rosemary O.
Chakowski.
Yes, thank you.
I guess everyone that's up there on Healy and Moffett.
All right, wait. Like I'm home, so help me with names. Like, because I don't want to be blamed for somebody being left out. So
I'm just gonna kill.
unless you want me to go, unless you want me to